Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, if you've in a get my teeth fixed. So, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Helen Elder. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it really means a lot to me to be able to connect with like-minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, create your future, and transform your present to raise your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, and take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and through Divine Presence, virtual and actual retreats, transformational packages, a 6-week guided meditation series for confidence, workshops, and much more, you can remember why you are here, your spiritual path, and the clarity of the next steps to take. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation, or an angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Helen Elder, about awakening your intuitive self. Now, everyone is clairvoyant and everyone is psychic because there are the natural abilities of our spiritual body. You just don't necessarily realize it yet. Our abilities are often hidden under layers of left brain teaching and programming, but can be reawakened at any time. Now, if you focus just 10 minutes down waking use your intuition, your life and how you lead it can change dramatically, as will the consciousness of the planet because we're all connected. And once you realize who you really are, which is a multidimensional, extraordinary being of light, you can harness your inner senses to guide your life and become all that it is. Now, Helen is an oracle card goddess, and she was aware of her psychic abilities at an early age and became aware of the spiritual dimension in her teens. After a life changing illness in her late 20s, she changed her path completely and now uses her clairvoyant gifts to help people see that they are far more than physical human beings. She's an Akashic Record healer, tarot and oracle card reader, workshop facilitator, and writer. Now, Helen believes that psychic and intuitive abilities are part of everyone's natural state and that there are many more ways to strengthen these abilities. In her one-to-one workshop, she helps people clear past life or this life blocks through using powerful Akashic record clearing work and helps to nudge them onto their highest timeline using tarot and oracle cards. Now, I personally have worked with Helen, and the clearing information that she gave me was really amazing, and I would definitely recommend connecting with her to experience the work that she does. So without further delay, hello Helen and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
Hi Ray. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Awesome to be here and chatting all goodness spiritual.
Excellent. So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Helen and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. So Helen, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how we can awaken our intuitive self?
Yeah, so when I say I was aware of being psychic when I was young, I didn't actually know what it was. I wouldn't have been able to articulate then that I was being psychic. I simply knew things before they happened. Didn't really happen to anyone around me. It wasn't in my family. So although I was kind of known for it in the family, it wasn't something I paid a huge amount of attention to because it made me different, made me feel different. And, you know, I just wanted to be normal. Not
Yeah.
anymore. So, yeah, I just thought it was this weird thing. I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. Didn't really take it seriously because, you know, nobody took it seriously. And I soon learned that, you know, talking about this kind of stuff and people would run for the hills. So I definitely kept it on the down low. And I went ahead and I was like, right, well, there's, you know, I can't have a proper job doing that. So I'm going to go off and have a proper job. Yeah, which didn't work.
What did you end up doing?
Yeah. And it all came crashing down spectacularly, as it does when you're not necessarily leading on the right path. So I became really, really ill and was bedridden for a couple of years. And when that happens, and I lost everything. I lost where I was living, my job, income, friendships, because I wasn't well enough to see anybody. And that's a lot of time to self-reflect.
Yeah.
And when I got better, it took a long time to get better. It took a few years, but when I did, I knew I couldn't go back to that kind of life that I was living, that really highly pressured, deadline-driven city life. And yeah, it's like, okay, well, what can I do? It's like, well, there's this weird psychic thing I've got. Maybe I can do something with that. And I literally just did a reading for somebody one day. I'd been doing it, but very much as a party trick, again, not taking it seriously. I never used cards. I just did readings, reading people's energy. And but again, some people would run for the hills, some people wouldn't. And then I thought, well, if I use cards, then people know exactly what I'm doing, and they can choose to come to me for their reading. And yeah, so I used cards for the first time, and it worked really well. And it was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And since that opened up this whole new path. And then I brought in the Akashic Records, which again is another type of reading. And I just realized, oh my God, this is a brilliant way to work. And I absolutely love it. And so yeah, so here I am doing those things.
Excellent. So how did you find out about the Akashic Records, and did you do any formal training for it, or?
I read a lot of books because, you know, because when I was doing readings, it was all very natural. I just could do it, but I couldn't necessarily explain to you how. Not then, anyway. We're talking 20 years ago, so I know a lot more now. But it really interested me. It's like, okay, I'm doing this, but I don't know how I'm doing it, and I don't know what I'm doing, what I'm reading. And so I did go on like a real quest. You know, I really wanted to understand human psychology, the subconscious, the mind, and that's when I discovered the energy field, the clairsenses, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and it was like that was a bingo moment, because it's like, oh, that's what I'm doing. It's clairsentience, it's claircognizance, it's clairvoyance. I get it now. And then when it came to what am I seeing when I look at people, what is it I'm seeing when I'm working with them? And I understood it's the Akashic field. So yeah, so I have done a course in it, but I would say it's very much self-taught, just through practice and understanding the concept. And I think once you understand the concept of the Akashic field, and that you can read it, then that just opens the door to it all becoming clear, really.
Yeah. So was it sort of like, so it was just kind of like a natural progression from
I
the
think so.
from the cards and everything?
Yeah, because the cards were like a trigger. So, like I said, beforehand I'd always just done readings with people, which you know anyone can do. But I brought in the cards to sort of for them, really, for the sitter to have something to look at. I thought, oh well, maybe they want something to look at. But it does work really well as a trigger. So I work very much with channeled information now, and what the card does is it provides kind of the opening for the channeled information. It hones it in, you know, it puts it on a certain path. And cards, another reason, cards are absolutely beautiful. I mean, tarot cards, especially oracle cards. So I'm basically surrounded by all this beautiful art all day long. And the feeling you get, as you know, you use cards, the feeling you get from cards, you know that these are spirit, you know, channeled work. You know that there's spirit in all of these cards. So it's also a way, a lot of what I teach is actually how to heal with oracle cards, not just about readings. So yeah, so that started, and then as it went on, it really was a case of me understanding more what was happening, and then being able to delve deeper in it. So wisdom that came with age, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I'm a
it's wisdom
wise
that
old crow
age.
now, so
Yeah, so am I. It's like, yeah, I've got to that point. Yay!
yes, the wise women, absolutely.
Exactly. And there now. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So Do you, you know, because you're saying, you know, everybody has this ability, but there'll be people that are watching and going, yeah, everyone
No,
always
I
says
bloody
that, but
don't.
yeah,
Not
I don't.
me.
What are you talking about?
What are you on about? So the reason I say that is when I really understood that it was the clair senses, that it was, you know, that because intuition, in my mind, intuition and psychic ability are two strands of the same thing. I think psychic ability is just really finely tuned intuition. It's like a really sharpened pencil of intuition. And this energy body, these clairsenses come through our spirit energy body, the part of us that is the non-physical. Well, every single person on the planet, you know, has a soul, is spirit housed in a human meat suit. And so those senses come with that. So everyone's psychic because they are spirit beings who have those abilities. What's different is how much access you have to that side of yourself. So even though I'll put on my bio and on my website, oh, you know, I'm clairvoyant and I'm psychic and blah, 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 what I'm actually saying is I'm using my psychic ability, I'm using my clairvoyance in my work. It's not that I'm psychic and you're not, you know, to anyone else. It's that I'm actively engaging those senses on a day-to-day basis to use them, you know, to help my clients, basically. So yes, I think it's lack of awareness. We do, especially in this culture, we do grow up in a very, very left brain. Science is king, logic is king, everything's material, you know, unless it's on the physical plane, unless you can experience it with your 5 physical senses, it doesn't exist. I mean, look at the way our science is, look at the way our medicine is. And look at our education, the emphasis placed on left brain education. I mean, I don't remember at school kind of, you know, after lunchtime, the Intuition 101 class.
No.
I don't remember, okay, this Monday we're going to do clairvoyance. You're all clairvoyant. Let's have a look. There's just no, you know, there's no insight into that as we're growing up. So we grow up in this very left brain world, and because all the focus is on the left brain, the right brain just gets left behind. So it's a bit like it's just dormant, or it's like it's got a cloak over it, you know, because it's not used. Now I say that, but actually we all use it all the time. If you think of words like gut instinct, hunch, vibe, I had a funny feeling, knowing, I just knew, you know, all these words that we use, those are our clairsenses. And yet if you said to someone, you know, the next time someone says to you, oh yeah, I didn't go, I just had a funny feeling about it, and you're like, oh, that was your clairsentience, they'll be like, what? So this is what I mean, we do actually use it, but how many realize? But a lot of people that come to see me doubt those abilities because we live in a culture where anything to do with psychic ability, you know, it's either demonized as, you know, oh, you're off chatting to the devil over there, or it's ridiculed. I mean, have you ever seen mediumship or psychics on television where they're not ridiculed? There's the odd good shows. You've got Jonathan Edwards. We used to have Colin Fry. So those shows, there's that, I can't remember his name now, but that young guy in Taylor, is it, in America?
Oh yeah.
Well. But other than that, you know, we've got things like Mystic Meg, haven't we? Which is, excuse my French, a piss take. So that's what we're up against. So what I show people is, first of all, because the biggest block I see in people is, oh, I'm not. You might be, but I'm not. And that's what I'm saying. Well, actually you are, because you're a spiritual being. So you are by default. Now what we need to work on is rediscovering, remembering that part of you, and how can we get that part of you back in balance? Because I'm not saying, you know, sod the left brain stuff.
Yeah, by left brain.
Yeah. Oh, I've had enough of the physical plane. I'm saying bring it back into balance, where so many are so out of balance. So of course we need logic, of course we need the material, you know, of course we need all that, but let's really ramp up the intuitive, the creative, you know, the artistic, all those right brain qualities, and bring them into balance. Because when you're in balance, you're holding all the cards, you're unstoppable. And it's through your intuition, that's how you connect with spirit. That's how you connect with angels, higher guides. And it's through your intuition that you realize you're not just physical, that there's an aspect of you that is far beyond that. And once you realize that, that sets you on the path to discovering that. So really, I think it's about remembrance. How can we get that remembrance, that because you're obviously, your spiritual part knows who you are. It knows you're a being of light. It knows that you're in this body. I mean, you're Ray and I'm Helen for really the blink of an eye in terms of our soul's life. So once you know that and remember that, and you realize what this world is really made of, then it's such a valuable tool, rather than being trapped in this box of I'm just flesh and bone and I'm just the mind and that's it.
Yeah, which I think there are more people now that are waking up and
Yeah, for
realizing
sure.
that, and I think that, you know, when you're sort of like saying about TV, you know, Mystic Meg, Russell Grant, you know, they were of that time when it was more entertainment, more ridicule. Where I think now a lot of the programs that have psychics and mediums on kind of like are a little bit more factual. They're not so
Yeah,
much sort of like let's
sensational.
entertain
Yeah,
and have a laugh type thing.
yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, it's definitely changing.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I don't know if you agree that because more people are waking up and understanding that this is what's happening, that I do have these gifts. um Somebody else is using them. I might not be using them, but I know somebody else is. So maybe I do have them.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you know
absolutely.
Okay. I mean, if how would you suggest that, you know, if if someone hasn't realised they were a child, you know, since they were a child, that they had these gifts, these talents, but they didn't know what they were. So if someone sort of like was watching this and go, yeah, okay, what do I do? What's the first thing I need to do to know that I have these abilities?
Yeah, so the absolute first thing, like I say, is to believe that you do, because that's the biggest block. And so even just accept, okay, yeah, I accept, I'm a spiritual being, okay, they're there by default. Okay, once you accept that, that removes one of the biggest barriers. Once you've done that, what I teach is converse with your intuition. And that sounds crazy, but converse with your intuition. It's a living, breathing force of power that you have within it. And you can ask it questions and it will give you the answer. So one of my favorite stories that I like to tell is how to do this. It's so I got a puppy a couple of years ago, and right at the time I got a puppy, the news was absolutely full to the brim of dog napping stories. Like every other dog was being dog napped, and my little puppy, and it was my first dog, I'd never had one. I was absolutely petrified. I'm like, I'm never leaving this house. And it's like, okay, well, I can't do that. That's ridiculous. But I just stuck nearby for a while. And then I was like, okay, well, I can't do that either. Poor dog. He's just going to see like this around my house and that's it. And a friend wanted to meet up at this place I'd never been. And I immediately panicked because it was out in an open space. And so I sat and I asked my intuition, and I literally said, is it so you hold, so in this case I held the image, the thought of this place in my mind, and I feel my intuition through my body. So well, everyone's is through their body, so I recommend holding like a hand on their tummy or something like that, or their abdomen, closing their eyes and directing that question. Imagine you're directing that question within. And I said, is it safe for me to go on this dog walk in this place? Now, I'm so used to doing this, I know instantly when it's a yes answer or a no answer. So I understand that that's the bit that needs practice. But I got a big yes. And I went on the dog walk and it was absolutely fine. And, you know, we're still here to tell the tale. But that's what you do. You actively ask. And another, and this is, a lot of teachers teach this, so this isn't mine, but a really good one to practice that, if you're a real beginner, is get to know the feeling of things. So get to know the feeling of truth and get to know the feeling of a lie. So anyone who's watching this, what they can do is, again, you want to get yourself into that meditative state. That just means a quietening of the mind. Take a few deep breaths, relax the body, and close their eyes. And just the first step is to just go to different areas of their body. So like really focus on their left shoulder for a few moments, and then really focus on their right knee, and then really focus like on their left big toe. And what that does is that takes the awareness out of the thinking mind and into the body, and it's in the body that the intuition is. So even just doing that for like 3 minutes every day, or, you know, when you're on a train or you're on a bus or you're in a car and someone else is driving, you know, just keep practicing that exercise of taking your awareness out of your mind and into your body. So that's step one, to get used to what that feels like. And then step two is get to know truth versus lies. So if I say, so I've done that exercise, I've calmed my mind, I'm in a nice quiet state, and I say to my intuition, is my name Helen? And what does that feel like? Now that's the truth, it is my name. So really get to feel, how does your body respond to that statement, I am Helen? Or the question, am I Helen? And you get to feel it. And then you say, yeah, I am Peter, or my name is Peter, or is my name Peter? Now, the minute I say that, I get a really odd, jarring sensation, because that, of course, is not true. So my body's going, like that. It doesn't like it. It just doesn't like that feeling. So what you do is you keep practicing that exercise with questions that you know the answer to. So, you know, do I live in England? Do I live in New Zealand? You know, with these really simple, is my hair black? You know, or is my hair blonde? And keep doing that over and over and over and over again with everything you can think of, until you get to know, oh, okay, so this is what untruth feels like, this is what truth feels like. But those are also the yes and no feelings. One's no, one's yes. And then use it as many times as you can. And it's just this constant engaging with your intuitive voice. It's the constant activating it, asking it a question, engaging. And the more you do that, it's like building a bridge. So it's like every time you connect, you're putting another brick to build that bridge. And you're building until the bridge is really strong. And then you instantly, you start to trust it then, and then you can really start to use it, and then you trust it, which of course is the important thing. Because a lot of people do get these intuitive knowings, but they don't trust them.
Yeah.
Because again, we're just not brought up in a culture to trust the body. We're told to trust the mind knows all, you know. But what's great is these are such little things to do, and it's not about how long you spend doing it, it's the consistency. So it's doing it a few minutes every day continuously is what's going to make the difference.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that is where people do make the mistake. They kind of like try it for a few days, and then it's like, well, nothing's really happening, so they don't
She's
bother.
wrong. She's absolutely wrong. She's talking rubbish.
Exactly, because they normally say, don't they? Is it 21 days before something really?
I'm not saying that
sinks
people
in.
don't have, because that's the other aspect of the work is, you know, I see it like a door. So some people like myself who have clairvoyance in their DNA, so I have it in my maternal line through my mother, through my great grandmother, etc. So that gives me a head start. I've also used my abilities a lot in past lives. So again, so there are people if you think of it as like a door, there are people who sort of instantly have the door ajar, but that's usually because of these two things. They've either got it in their soul DNA or they've got it in their energetic sort of physical line DNA. So if you haven't used it before in past lives, or if you haven't got it in your DNA, then you may feel much more like you're on the starting block. But we all were there at some point. You know, even if I've used it in past lives or have it in my DNA, there was a time when it wasn't. You know, so that's how you get people who feel like, you know, who have seemed totally natural in it, and then those who find it a real struggle. But it's just getting past those struggles. And if we have, it depends on our beliefs. You know, if we've been brought up that any kind of spirit channeling is channeling the devil, that's a very common one. You know, look at the witch hunts that weren't actually that long ago. A lot of us were strung up by our toes and worse, weren't we? So that's in our soul memory. So sometimes our soul can say, right, you're not doing that again, ever. And that's where the Akashic work comes in. Because I then go into your Akashic Records and say, oh, okay, you put a block in here because last time you were psychic, it was curtains. And you don't want that to happen again. Well, this lifetime, it's safe for us to be fully who we are, because the tipping point has arrived, and actually it's just going to mushroom. I've seen more people awaken in the last 5 years than I have in the previous 15. So things are definitely changing. But yeah, everyone can. It's just, and you have to be willing to put in the work. This is the thing. Be willing to do that every day. Be willing to work on it. And then other than that, read books, you know, watch YouTube videos, do meditations, do whatever it is you're drawn to, but give it focus, give it a priority. And just like the gym, you know, we don't go to the gym once and go, oh, bloody hell, I haven't got a six pack. What happened? We don't expect that. We know, okay, if I'm going to get toned, that's going to take certain sessions every week. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take commitment. You know, on the days I don't want to get out of bed, I'm still going to have to do it. It's that same analogy. It's that brick building that bridge. You've got to keep picking up the bricks to build it.
Yeah. I think that's what we kind of like. We forget. We kind of like see certain things of, we have to, you know, work at this to get this, but other things we go, well, why do I need to work at that? You know, it should automatically.
Yeah.
But technically it is, you know. It's like a muscle, isn't it, really, that you just need to develop and practice with, going along, you know. And again, it's like, obviously, you know, you had the psychic skills, and then you did the cards. But again, if you want to develop those skills, use the cards first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. They're brilliant for practicing.
Yeah. So how would you suggest that, you know, people would use cards to actually do that, to help develop their psychic abilities?
So I would start with oracle cards, just because they're a lot easier than tarot. And the first thing you need is just the openness, just that openness to allow connection to take place. Because it's amazing how much we all get in our own way. And so just sort of have an attitude of, do you know what, I'm going to give it a go. Rather than, oh, I really want to read the cards and I want to do it now. It's like, no, I'm just going to give it a go. Like, because as soon as you put pressure on yourself, you close it down. And so it's just the openness, and pick a deck that you are really drawn to. So not one your best friend's auntie's second cousin twice removed has told you to get. You must have this. No, you choose the deck. I remember when I started reading tarot a couple of decades ago, it was like, you can't pick your own tarot. You have to have it handed down.
Yes,
To you.
I remember.
It was a real thing,
Yeah,
wasn't
from
it?
my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, okay. Now it may have been then the energies then, but certainly not now. It's like, no, it's okay. See which deck you're drawn to, which one's calling you, which one's calling your name, and then just play around with it, you know, in a fun way. Take the pressure off. And as you shuffle the cards, start with really easy, open-ended questions like, what do I most need to know today? And then just shuffle and then pick the card. And so what I recommend when using cards is to kind of bring white light all the way through you, all the way through your energy body. And that's to really cleanse the mind, because the thing is, the cards will respond to whatever's your focused intention is. So if you're shuffling the cards, but then what's happening in your mind is you're thinking about your Sainsbury's shop, then the cards are going to answer a question about your Sainsbury's shop. You know what I mean? You're gonna be like,
I
oh,
love
that's
that.
not relevant. You know, it's like, no, you've really got to be focused. So I bring through the white light first. It doesn't have to be white light. It can be, you know, crystals. It can be sound. It can be a waterfall, whatever you like. But just clear that thinking. And then be really, as soon as you've got your question, and clear the cards as well. But as soon as you've got your question and you're shuffling, be single point focus on your question. And what I teach my beginners is imagine the question going from your mind into the cards. So, for example, what do I most need to know today? Really imagine you're sending that question into the cards. And so then the cards will respond to that energy, because that's how it works. And because you're being single point focused, it will only respond to that energy. And then you pick the card, and then I ask for people to immediately see what do they first get, because intuition, our clairsenses love oracle cards. So as soon as we've done that practice, we're activating it. As soon as we've gone into that quiet space and we've asked that question, we're activating it. And so just see what is the first thing that they get. And on my courses, I ban people from using the booklets. Like, nope, you're not allowed. But what I teach is use your intuition first, then look at the booklet afterwards. And just make a few notes of what they get. And then come back to it. So do that at the beginning of the day and then come back to it at the end of the day and see how it relates. How did this card relate? And my notes, how did it relate to how the day actually panned out? And again, if there are some days where it's like, oh, I've got no idea, I don't know. Okay, never mind. Just do it again. You know, again, it's letting go of that perfection. I've got to get it right first time, or I've got to know straight away. No, absolutely not. You know, you learn a lot more through failure, like in anything, don't you? Rather than you do in success. And so it's like, that's why I keep saying take the pressure off, because if you just allow yourself to play with it and to have a go and to just see what happens, keep that really nice openness, then that is the best avenue for awakening your intuition. And then you'll start to get it because it's practice. Your intuition, you're triggering your intuition every day. So then that will start to become really familiar. And then you can start to ask more in-depth questions. You know, what should I do about X? I've got a problem at work. What should I do about this? And use exactly the same technique, that single point focus. But there you've got a much more direct question. So see what the card says in relation to the question. And again, not to worry if you don't get it straight away, just write notes of what you do get. And then come back to it the next day or later that day and have another little look. And that's really the secret. It's persistence, and it's constancy, and it's openness. And every time you do it, you're going up another step in strengthening your intuitive voice. And the more you do it, the stronger it will get.
Yeah, really, really great. You know, really great advice there. You know, about using the cards to help develop your intuitive skills, especially if you kind of like don't, you know, you kind of like that feeling. You know, the first one you suggested. Oh, you know, how do I work with my body? And that, you know, that feels a little alien. Well, use the
Yeah.
cards. You know, there are many tools that you can use to to help. I forget what is it bibliomancy,
Bibliomancy.
where you literally with a book,
Yeah,
you just literally ask a question, open the book, first sentence or words you see, and that's your answer to the question that you've asked that day, or what do I need to know today?
yeah,
And you just make a note of it.
yeah, 100%. There are so many ways, aren't there?
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose even with the internet these days, you could kind of like,
Random
uh,
web page, yeah.
yeah, yes, something like, or predictive text.
Yeah, autocorrect.
That would be an
It would, wouldn't it?
interesting experiment to try. Hmm.
And I think another important thing to remember is, as humans, we've used divination, like what we're talking about, since we could walk. You know, if you look at any culture, it's got some form of divination in it. We know the Nordic tradition of runes. We've got the Celtic tradition of Ogham. We've got sand reading, where people would read sand. Bones. Shamans use bones to do readings. Our ancestors used twigs. Would throw twigs in the air, see where they fell. I saw a brilliant one the other day, which was I hadn't actually seen before, but it was like a whole bowl full of charms. And every charm, it was like, the little, the ones you have in Monopoly, so someone's got a top hat and someone's
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
charm.
yeah.
And so imagine that, but about 200 of them. And then they had like a wheel cut into sort of slices. And then they just chose about sort of 5 to 7 charms, would throw them up, see where they landed, and what charm it was and where it landed on the circle was all part of the reading. So that's
Wow.
another really old technique to use. Tea leaves.
Oh,
I
yeah,
had a
tea
reading
leaves.
once from a Turkish lady who read the coffee grounds at the bottom of my coffee cup. So, we've always done this. So oracle cards are just the latest incarnation or the latest tool. So God knows, like say in 100 years' time, what they'll be using then. I don't know.
Yeah, God, no, that'll be an interesting one. And of course, something that just came to me, came to then is sort of like mothers and intuition with
Yeah,
their children.
yeah,
If you say, "Oh, I've never had intuition," well, when you was with your child, did you not know when they were
yeah, yeah.
upset or needed you, or that was your intuition, that was your psychic abilities?
I mean, it's just we all use it, like I said, all the time, but we just don't pay it enough attention. And this is why I say it's a game changer, because if we bring up this balance of this right brain, left brain, because intuition is through the right brain aspect of us. Imagine any decision that you have to make and you're making it through an intuitive voice. I mean, you can trust your intuition. This is the thing, because it's coming from your soul, and your soul knows everything. There's nothing the soul doesn't know about you and your life. So it knows the path you're on. It knows whether to go right, whether to go left. It knows the decisions you should make. And how many times have you heard people say, damn, I wish I'd listened to my gut instinct and I didn't?
Yeah.
Because the mind overrode it. Because we're so used to living in this thinking mind, and we think our way out of problems. It's like, no, feel your way out of problems. That's another actually top tip that I teach on my courses, is to swap the word think for feel. So rather than say, oh, I think I should, I stop them, I get them to put a hand again on their abdomen, and I say to them, use the word feel. I feel I should, because intuition comes through feelings. And so once they start getting used to saying, I feel, again, that's a great activator for their body's wisdom.
Yeah.
And other little techniques are things like, what does my body want to eat today? And I do this most days. And it's like, what do I need today? Especially to ward off colds we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And the other day I was feeling really rough. And so I said, body, what would you like? What my mind wanted was a bar of dairy milk. I was like, yeah, but I'm intelligent enough to know that's not going to help my cold. So I said to my body, okay, tell me, intuition, what does my body need? And it said apples, 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 apples. Like, just get as many apples down you as you can. But it was specific. It's like there's something in an apple that I needed. And I felt, 2 days later, 100%. And again, there's so many things we know. We know that fruit, we know we need fruit, we know we need veg, we know we need water. But what's your body asking for? Which fruit does your body want? Which vegetable does it want? Does it want a green one? Does it want a yellow one? Does it want a red one? So that's a bit harder in one sense, because you don't get that right or wrong answer. But it's still really valuable because it's really activating that voice. And then you just get used to listening. Okay, so today I've got to eat apples. Maybe tomorrow it'll be spinach. If you start saying donuts, that's usually not your intuition, because the body actually, certainly in my experience, it actually never asks for junk food. My emotions do, and my mind does.
Yeah.
So again, it's discerning between what's an emotional kind of craving, and actually my body only asks for nourishing food. So it'll ask for sweet, but it'll be, honey or, a banana or something.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. So there are so many different ways that we can do it, and different techniques. But as you said, it's consistency, doing it on a regular basis every day.
Yeah,
That actually fine tunes, and as you said, it's like, you go, if you want to lose or get toned, you regularly go to
yeah,
the gym. If you want to get fit, you regularly go out running. So why not treat your intuition, your psychic skills, exactly the same as you would for those
yeah,
things?
yeah, 100%. And start small. The reason I'm saying these things about food or about what do I need to know today, it's all these things that aren't big. Because if you start with, right, intuition, shall I get divorced?
Yeah.
Shall I move to Australia? Those are huge decisions. And it's not that your intuition can't tell you that. Don't misunderstand me. Your intuition absolutely knows. But if you're not used to this voice, you will get completely in your way, because it's huge. Those are big decisions. Whereas if you start with, okay, what food do I need today?
Yeah.
Then there isn't going to be that resistance. There isn't going to be that fear. But this is what's brilliant, is the more you use it, it will get stronger, stronger, stronger. And then you can ask the big questions. You can ask these life-changing stuff, but you will be in a practice place, and you'll be in a place of trusting your intuition. And so you will then trust the answer that comes through. So yeah, start small, start often, and practice. And I do recommend keeping a journal as well, just to remind yourself of your journey, and it will just really help to see your progress as well.
Yeah, because I suppose, and also if you're writing it down, you're actually fixing it into place, aren't you?
You're entering
Rather
it
than
in.
just leaving it in the ether.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah,
And then this is sort of the secondary. So those are all the sort of starter tips, as it were. That's how to get started. Once you've got started, and once you're really starting to understand, to learn, to know what it feels like, another key thing is actually to really know yourself. Know what your hurts are, know what your wounds are, and know what your beliefs are. Because all these things kind of get in the way. So things like unconscious bias, things like, any painful memories of certain things they're sort of like roadblocks in the way, but they're only roadblocks if you don't know they're there. So it's exactly what I just said about the food. You might instantly get dairy milk, you know, and you're like, oh, my intuition says I need to get, well, no, that's your wounded self saying, I'm hurting, I want soothing, can you get me the chocolate? So we have sort of these different voices, if you like, and one of them is the wounded voice. It's the inner child that we often talk about. So again, that's what I mean by know yourself. Know, is it a wounded part of you, or is it that beauty? Because the intuitive voice is just pure. It's like pure light. And the other thing is the egoic voice. The egoic voice will be the one talking to you in fear. So again, your intuition never speaks to you in fear. It will never do that. It will say absolutely no. So for example, with what I was talking about with the dog incident, I got a resounding yes. Now, it could well have been it wasn't a safe place, in which case my intuitive voice would have said no, but it still says no with love. It doesn't terrify the bejesus out of you, you know, whereas the egoic voice loves nothing better than to have you absolutely petrified and hiding under the duvet. Because that's what was happening. My mind was saying, there's a dog napper on every corner. Everywhere I go, they're going to nick my dog. They're going to do this. And it's fear, 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 fear. Whereas had it not been safe, it's like that mother, you know, if a mum doesn't want the child to do something, it doesn't go, yeah, don't do that, you're going to die. You know, it will say, oh, darling, you know, let's just go over here. You know, it's much better over here. Or it'll speak in that calm, loving voice. So that's your intuition. It will say no, but it will say it in a loving way. So again, which is your intuitive voice? Which is the wounded child voice? Which is your egoic voice? This is all part of the process of getting to know. And that's why the journaling is really good. Getting to know these different parts of you and who's speaking. And but they all feel very different. So again, very quickly you'll see which one's which.
Yeah, brilliant advice, and such really easy steps to actually take, you know, so it's not as complicated as you might think it is. You know, it's really quite straightforward and quite easy. And we do, I think, sometimes as humans we overthink things and try and make it more difficult
Yeah, for sure.
than it actually is. So as you know, I normally, or I do angel oracle card reads and I do guided meditations. And each week I like to ask my guests whether they would like me to do a mini guided meditation or pull an angel oracle card for themselves and those watching. But as I know, Helen, that you do oracle cards and you've got behind you, and that we can only see a few of them, but you've got
My
loads,
collection, my vast collection. Yeah.
your vast collection. Would you like to pull a card for everyone that's watching this live or the replay?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we were talking about this earlier, I just had a feeling that the crystals wanted to talk to us, because again, this is when you really get to know your cards. They all have different energies. They all come with different frequencies and different messages. And so again, I asked which deck wants to work with us, and it was the crystal deck. So I'll just show you in case anyone's interested. That's the actual deck, Crystal Keeper's Oracle. So I'm going to take my own advice and do my clearing, my lovely, beautiful white light, which I do. You know, I practice what I preach. And I'm just going to ask, so as I'm shuffling, I'm also intending for the white light to clear all the cards. And I'm clearing my mind. And then I'm focusing very clearly. What message is there for the watchers today or on replay? What message is there for the watchers, whether live or on replay? Whether live or on replay. And then I just feel when the cards are ready. There are different ways to pick cards, but that's another podcast. Okay, so we have Kunzite. Let's see. That's quite a lovely card, isn't it?
Beautiful card.
So then as I pull cards, so then I ask for the message to come through. Oh, so this is a really interesting message, because as we can see in the card, it's lovers, right? It's a partnership, it's a couple. And so what they're telling me is in that first flush of romance, your partner can do no wrong, can they? They're just angel in human
Yeah.
form, and they're just amazing. And you just feel this intense love. But what they're saying is we need to have that state, but for ourselves. So we can take, and they say you can use a memory, and it doesn't have to be a person. Like if you have your own pet, if you have a dog or a cat that you love, or any other pet, where you just feel, where you can remember that kind of, huge feeling of love. Or it can be a partner or a child or whatever. But they're saying take yourself back to that deep love and really immerse yourself in it. Really feel that love. But then what you do is you turn that love and you give it to yourself. So thinking of the other person or the pet or whatever is just a way to activate that love within you. And once it's filled your body and mind, you then kind of give it to yourself. And they're saying it's a really good indicator of how much you love yourself, whether at that point of giving it to you, do you resist it? Do you resist that? Do you resist that receiving? Oh, I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or whatever these other negative voices are. And the more you can accept it, then that shows you, how much you love yourself. And it's kind of an exercise you can do over and over. And loving ourselves is actually the key to everything, all healing, because we are part of the collective. Any healing we do, so anytime one of us heals one of our wounds, and this is going back to that know what your wounds are, and then heal them. And once you do, and I see this in readings all the time, once you lift it out of your energy body and it's transmuted, it's lifted from the collective. Another layer is lifted from the collective. So all self-healing actually helps everybody. And again, the more you love yourself, what happens is you then vibrate that love out into your energy field. And then everyone you come into contact with, whether it's virtual or physical, then receives that trigger to then love themselves. It's like a domino effect. And as we know, the outer material world is a reflection of all our inner world. So if we want peace out there, we've got to have peace in here. If we want love out there, well, we have to love ourselves first, because we reflect that out. So it's saying, remember that flash of first love. And do you ask yourself, do you love yourself that much? With that fire, that, oh my God, I'm amazing, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. If you can really tune into that and feel that, that does make a tremendous difference to everybody.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful reading, and beautiful cards. And that for that. So as you kindly did that for our audience, I'm now going to do a card for you and everyone watching as
Lovely.
well. And again, I do, when I do a different way, I do a cleansing where I sit and then I hold them to my heart and I bless the cards. And then just shuffle with the intention of what does everyone who's watching this live or at a later date and Helen need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? What does Helen and everyone who's watching this live or at a later date need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? And again, it's just until either a card jumps out or I feel that I've actually shuffled enough, and then it's just like beautiful.
That smile.
I love this. So the card that's come out for you and everyone watching is Faraway Places. Get ready for new horizons.
Ooh.
And that's so basically,
I am
Helen.
going to Australia.
There you go, you see. There's
I'm
there's
not.
new horizons, new things that are coming in for you now. So let your imagination, expand. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? And just allow that information to come to you, because as you're sending that energy out, new things are going to be coming to you, and you are going to be given the signs
Yeah.
to actually go places or do things that you may not have thought
Yeah.
were actually in your field. They're actually now going to
Drop
come in.
in.
So it's kind of like out of left wing. So whatever you think or thought, it's not. It's going to be something completely different that you didn't think about. That is going
Ooh,
to give you that new horizon.
interesting. Ooh,
Yeah, so
exciting.
it'll be interesting to see how that goes with you, and and what everyone who's watching this live on the replay, how it, do let us know, how it goes for you. So, Helen, do you have any insights or thoughts to leave our viewers with? Any
Yeah, I
last words
mean,
of wisdom?
believe in yourself, I think is the main thing, and just give it a go. Just you've literally got nothing to lose. You're not losing anything, and you have the potential to gain so much, because once you let that intuitive voice, lead your life, life is so much easier. um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
let go of perfectionism. I mean, even though I've been teaching this for so long, I still have moments where I get caught up in the mind. So it's always a work in progress. I never consider myself to be, you know, at any accomplished place. All I have to share is that I've been practicing it for a really long time. So I like to think I've learnt a few things along the way, but challenges still come up, so that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And actually the best lessons I've had in life are when I didn't follow my intuition. But yeah, I can tell you that story another time.
Yeah.
But it was brilliant. I wasn't happy at the time because it almost went, I had to get legal involved and blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't because, but I hadn't listened to my intuitive voice, because my mind, I mean, this is a while ago now, but my mind overrode it. And boy, did I learn not to do that.
Yeah,
So,
I think
haven't
we've
we?
all gone down that
Everyone's
route
done that, haven't they? Yeah.
at, at some point. Yeah, just slightly. So I hope everyone that's been watching, you've enjoyed this conversation, found it insightful, because I know I definitely have, and you learn a few tips about increasing your intuition. So Helen, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
So my website is oraclecardgoddess.co.uk. They can just contact me on there. I have an online booking system, so they can also just book themselves straight in. On Instagram, again, just Oracle Card Goddess, one word, and same on Facebook. So yeah, those are the best places.
Yeah. And do you do live readings on
I
Instagram?
do, yes. I don't do them on structured days or anything. I tend to do them when lots wants to come through, so I can't always predict. But yes, that's readings for the collective that are free on Instagram,
Yeah.
and they stay on there, so obviously you can look back and hear previous readings.
Yeah, and as I said, Helen's, sort of like looked at my Akashic records, and we did some healing, clearing on that one, and done the cards to me, and I would highly recommend
Thank you.
actually connecting with Helen and using her services, because it's absolutely brilliant.
And I also
What
do a group Akashic clearing every month. I do a group Akashic clearing for something that affects all of us. So the last month was clearing what's in the way of you connecting with your guardian angel. And this month is going to be clearing ancestral DNA. What are those traumas that have come through that are standing in your way? So yeah, that's always a good event to get to.
Yeah, excellent. As I said, I'll put all your details on the comments, so people just need to click on them. So again, thank you to everyone who's watching, who has watched this today. I've seen the numbers coming up and down. You've all been very quiet today, so
Um,
you've obviously really taken in what
hang on
Helen
to
was
every
saying.
word.
Exactly, yeah, because I saw the numbers sort of like that were coming and watching, and nobody sort of like asked any questions. They were obviously really interested in what you're saying. So if any comments or any questions do come up, you still put them in the comments, because Helen and I will look back, and we will reply to anyone who does comment after the show's finished. Or if you're watching us on the replay, so please do that. And again, thank you so much, Helen, for sharing your wisdom and giving us those ideas of how we can actually awaken our intuitive system. And of course, if you are now ready to remember your divine presence and step into your spiritual multidimensional path, but you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please feel free to reach out and connect with me. And we can arrange a free video call to discuss where you are now and how you can move forward to take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. And of course, please feel free to join my weekly newsletter and receive a free future life progression recording, where I take you into a future lifetime to get guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other free gifts. So again, thank you everyone so much for watching. And I would like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you, and maybe awaken their intuition. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please do feel free to subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified of when the show goes live or I post new guided meditations, because every like, comment, share, subscription really helps boost the show, and gets it out to more people who might need the help and guidance on there. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.